Hey everybody, it's Chris. In today's episode, I talk with Ab Labidi about a bunch of stuff. How to get from loneliness to connection, how to heal abusive relationships, changing the world from the bottom up, and why you don't need to read books anymore. The interview really touched my heart, and I think what we talk about is so important to each one of us, individually and to the world. So stay tuned, I think you'll enjoy it.
Welcome to Practically Conscious from chrisbrownstudios.com.
For yoga teachers, meditation teachers, and students on the path to peace and joy, the Practically Conscious podcast provides entertaining, encouraging, and informative content, which will help you bring your practice, your passion, your consciousness, and your life to the next level. Whether you're struggling with life's challenges or searching for ways to deepen your practice, whether you want to spread the word about yoga and meditation, or simply live the best life possible, you've found the place for practical answers to your challenges. From this foundation, we can all work together towards making the world a better place. And welcome. Welcome. I'm your host, Chris Brown. And today on the show, we have Abdulkader Labidi, also known as Ab. I've known him for a long time, really an amazing person. He's a yogi, a writer, an architect, and one of those rare enlightened individuals who's able to articulate his journey from abuse and loneliness to love and connection. Ab's also played a role in promoting world peace through the United Nations, and he's a fountain of compassionate wisdom. So I'm really excited to have him on the show today. So welcome, Ab.
Thank you.
So in terms of my experience, I felt that, looking back, you can kind of look at it as, and people tend to talk about their life experiences as if it's sort of a direction from point A to point B. And maybe if you think of it as I think of my experience as like a plane flying around the world, because I started out in one place and then I came all the way around the world and I wound up back where I started in terms of my journey to being more conscious and more aware. And then that plane, you might think of it as many people describe it as it gets slightly off course and then you're constantly correcting. I don't know how you feel looking back on your life, but I don't know if you feel like your journey has been straight line, kind of this is where I want to go, or if it's been more just being pushed in different directions and how things have gone for you.
Very interesting that you started the discussion with the plane metaphor, and and I think is the 16th or 17th day of the lost plane, the Flight 307, and how it's captured the imagination of people around the world, the idea of being lost and no one knows where you are. And people imagine themselves in that position, not only sympathizing with the families and the individuals, but this idea of being lost. And it's such and being alone. And this is something that everyone could relate to on a much deeper level, because as I think most people know, that deep down there is a very strong sense of loneliness. No matter how connected you seem to be, there is always the singularity inside. And the interesting idea is how you can have this very, very concentrated singularity and an amazing expansion of where you are one with the world. And tracing my life back, my oldest memories is more of the singularity of the tiny, small person scared. Even within my family, with the place of safety and security, being with a father who was very, very strict, physically abusive to my mother and to myself and my other kids. I still bear scars, physical scars from his abuse. This is a man that I know. He passed away in 2005, and I cherish him now, and I realize his life experience. I learned later on in years that he was extremely abused by his father to a point where he had ribs and arms broken, and he was in a hospital from the abuse for very small, childish infractions. So you can say that my journey from that experience through the years and how the chance encounters I had in the world with teachers that were special teachers, an amazing mother who's very loving, extremely patient, to friends, including you, Chris. I was so lucky to have met you. And so my journey has been a series of happy incidents where people that are shedding more and more light ahead of my path.
But even that, from very early on, was a sense of a disconnection or a loneliness or a feeling of not being connected.
Correct. Yes.
With people. So even with you have a fairly large family, right?
8 kids, and plus the parents. Yeah.
So even in that world, that experience, you still felt a sense of disconnection or maybe a sense of not belonging.
Exactly.
And then the flight that's disappeared, I think, really evokes that feeling in people, that sense of not being able to connect with perhaps people that you want to be able to connect with.
Exactly. Not even knowing what connecting means because you haven't experienced it yet. So until you know what that's like, and it's a flood basically of love and understanding and compassion towards everything and everyone. All of a sudden it goes from a sense of it's me, and there's the world there, and I don't understand what's going on, to all of a sudden it's just a complete openness. And it's just, you physically sense that your heart opens, and there's a complete openness about your life and your lifestyle and your perception of the world.
You've gotten there, or at least you've experienced it. I don't know if you feel that you exist in that space all the time, but it was a journey to get there. I don't know that for you, I don't really know your story of getting from that place of suffering or not understanding even when you're a very young child to that place of where you now feel that you're in this open, expansive place. But I imagine it took a while. How long? Was it? Did you have glimpses of this space, you think, when you were younger, or was it not till you're older and you went through an extensive search? I mean, I want people to be able to understand, what's the shortest way to get from that place of suffering to that place of expanded awareness and feeling connected with the universe and with other people and existing in a place of love and bliss and the opposite of suffering.
Yeah, I think I don't think there is an answer for everyone. I can only give you the answer that what worked for me. I guess that's what you're asking me. It's just my own personal experience. And for me, it's a sense of compassion. And one of my favorite quotes of Jesus Christ is, "Forgive them, for they do not know what they do." And I think many people really misunderstand what that means, or at least don't share my understanding, I should say, of that. And my understanding of it is that no matter how wrong people's actions seem to be, and we may look at it and we take the most egregious behavior, human beings, Hitler or any of these characters, and you could still say, "Forgive them, for they do not know what they do." And you do, and you have to understand clearly that they really don't know what they did. And so once you start having that sense of it's almost a mechanical understanding. It's not a philosophical understanding. It's a logical, pragmatic understanding. If they did understand, they would not do what they are doing then. And so I turned that on my father, and I realized that he did not know how to be a better father than that. That's his way of discipline. And you start to basically turn that on yourself, and then you have compassion for yourself instead of saying, "I can't believe it, I'm fat, I can't believe it, I'm not so successful," is to just say, "This is all the intelligence I have, this is all the discipline I have, this is all the friends I have, this is all the support I have. I don't need to add to that self-criticism and harsh and abusive language towards myself, but to open up." So for me, that's the tipping point, is that compassion for myself and for the world, saying, that's the best we can do. We don't have to add to it more criticism, but to add more compassion and more patience and more love and sharing.
Right. But a starting point is noticing it in other people first, right? It's, you're driving down the highway and you get mad at somebody because they cut you off.
Correct.
And then you eventually get to the point where you can have compassion for that person, or maybe they're in a hurry, or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
So you recognize it in other people first, and you begin to have compassion with other people first, I think, because at least for me, in my experience and my own personal experience with yoga and meditation, and then when I'm teaching people, is I notice that it's easier for people to have compassion for others, but they're often still their own worst critic. And then you see a lot of these issues come up with people when you ask them to look inward and to really listen to what they're feeling inside and kind of get to know themselves. And my experience was I felt like I was a very positive person. And then when I really started to take that inward journey, I noticed that I was really harsh on myself and, like very, very critical of myself. And I think that was a big discovery for me. So I think what you're talking about maybe is a similar journey.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. I have to tell you, when you talked about the example you gave is, we are in the car and someone cuts you off or you get upset. And I think back at myself and I don't recognize that person, because I remember myself not only giving someone the finger, but chasing them in the car to make sure that they see that I'm giving them the finger because they cut me off. It's something that I would never do now. If, the last a small incident I had with a lady where I was parked and she ran into me, trying to park, and she actually ran into me, backed off, and then tried to park again, and she hit me again. That's when she decided to park on another side. And when she came back, she's walking back towards my car. The first thing out of my mouth was, "Are you okay? Is everything all right?" And you can imagine the transformation from the first incident, I would have been on top of her hood. So it is possible to make that transformation. And what I think you're saying is, and I never really thought of it, is that you started thinking about the other person and then eventually you make the circle to yourself. Very interesting. Yeah. I didn't think of that.
One thing that I have found as I'm teaching people is that I'm trying to describe a way of getting to this place that maybe doesn't necessarily require suffering or pain, but at the same time, I feel like my journey, your journey, just about anybody I know who's come to a place that's, I don't want to say that people are awakened or conscious, but maybe they are, but people get to that spot where they've at least, glimpsed and maybe sometimes exist in a place of conscious awareness or enlightenment, that everybody that I've come across has come from a place of pain, of suffering, that there's some sort of it comes out of a place of deep struggle and suffering. I want there to be a way to get there without having to experience that, but I don't know if it's possible to get there.
Yeah.
And I know Adyashanti talks about, sometimes you need the nightmare in order to force you to wake up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the idea that it would be nice for people to get to that point of enlightenment without having to go through the corridors of pain and suffering, self-inflicted or otherwise. But my guess, and it's only a guess, that the adults that have not suffered are an absolute minority, maybe 1 in 100,000. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or you're poor. That is how human beings are surviving right now on the face of the earth. So everyone has some level of experience with suffering and pain and disease. So and everyone is ready. Everyone wants it. Everyone is deep inside, knows that there is a better way of being. And so the trick is to have more people like you that are doing what they can to shed light ahead of the past of our fellow human beings, to say it could be different.
And I think that some people have discovered the tools, and some people, I say, haven't discovered the tools. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the tools. Some people also have been handed the tools and they don't know how to use them.
Mm-hmm.
So think back 200 years back from now, when you hand the simplest of electric tools, a drill or anything like that, to a most competent carpenter, and they wouldn't know what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's also knowing how to use the tools and be open to learning how to use them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this also, the teaching that you're doing and others are doing around the globe, is a new. It's a fairly old wisdom, but it's a fairly new phenomena of now. It's opened. It's not the prophets. It's not the special gurus. It's people that have seen the light,
Mm-hmm.
and it's in it at a deep level. They also carry within them enough love and compassion to say, I want to share this. I owe it to my fellow human beings to say, here's a way.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the tools are becoming more and more common, and it should be a momentum with it.
Yeah, that's why I feel like we live in such an amazing time, because I think that there were possibly early people who developed this wisdom, a Jesus or a Buddha, or probably many people that we just never even heard of that made these realizations, and then just shared the wisdom, but they didn't have the internet. They didn't have even books or audio books. They didn't have these things. So you wound up maybe traveling halfway across the world to find somebody who might be a decent guru, and then you get there and it turns out that they're not. But now we just have this ability to go online and just go through hundreds of different people and find those people that we resonate with, that we connect with, that they have that wisdom or that experience that you can really learn from. So I think that there's this, I have this sense that there's an increasing awakening that's happening, that a lot of people are having access to this stuff and finding it. And it's really been a realization for me, because I haven't been that involved in social media or really exploring too much online. And when I had my awakening experience, I felt like maybe I was the only one, and I knew of, Eckhart Tolle and maybe, and you. And I thought, well, maybe we're the three people that had this experience. And then to now realize, as I'm starting to share these things, that there are so many people out there that have had this experience, just normal people living normal lives. And then there's the gurus, and then there's so many people that are on the path but haven't quite gotten there yet. I totally agree, and it must be in the millions and millions of people on the face of the earth now. And once this is also sort of a logical statement. Once you know, you cannot unknow. So once you see the light, it is there. It's you can't decide I'm not going to see it. It's part of you. And so these millions of people that have seen the light are now speaking up. They're behaving in a certain way. And that number is not going to decrease, no matter what the setbacks could be on a global scale. So we are seeing really beginning of a world transformation, and the years ahead are going to be that much more amazing as the world opens up, and you see the transformations in Africa and in the Middle East. But there are setbacks, definitely, and there are a lot of people that are suffering incredibly.
Yes.
And that's part of your story that we haven't gotten into too much about where you came from, but you are from Tunisia. You were born in Tunisia, so in North Africa, in the heart of the the birth of the Arab Spring. Now people actually know where Tunisia is.
Yeah, exactly.
Or at least have heard of it.
Yeah.
So, and I think that probably you and I view the Arab Spring as an amazing beginning of an amazing transformation in terms of of people that has maybe suffered for a long time, and that this is a possibility for great positive change in North Africa and the Middle East.
Correct.
But I think that probably a lot of other people look at it and say, like, oh, here's a descent into chaos.
Correct. And, the progress and the setbacks that we would see, on a global level, we will see them on a personal level too. We will slip. Mm-hmm. And so you go from pure consciousness and living in a state of almost euphoria to, anger and fear and worries or being anxious, and then you wake up from it. So these are a little bit sort of waves, and the idea of lengthening the smooth ride as much as possible,
and
so
then and then when you slip, to catch yourself as quickly as possible.
Exactly, and that's part of the compassion thing. This is not about I need to be perfect. Again, there's no self-criticism here. There's pure compassion and love and tolerance for who you are at any given moment. So when that's how you can very easily, like a baby, you fall and quickly you stand up, and they don't look back, and they just forget about it immediately and just move forward. And that's this back and forth process. So when you see people, when you talk to many people about the world's transformation, they want to believe it, but then they start reciting all these things that are going on around the world. And right now, you have all of North Africa still going in turmoil, in Egypt and Syria, as you know, and Iraq is back, and we have a plane that is missing, and we have Putin just with the Crimea, and they think the world is falling to pieces. And so you do have, even on a global level, these blimps or few steps back, mm-hmm. And it's part of the process of growing.
So, but how do you see? So let's talk about moving forward. What do you see in terms of a global process, or maybe even a universal process of moving towards being? I don't even know if we want to say even more than people becoming more aware and awake, but just that perhaps the universe is moving more towards being conscious of itself.
Again, you and I talked about this idea of the universal consciousness unfolding upon itself. Mm-hmm. And I would rather talk about on a direct level, on a personal level, and not with the cosmic, with a capital K level, the Wilbur mm-hmm. Discussion. And that's where I believe that it's going to be so much more organic, bottom up, mm-hmm. sort of a transformation from one person. Everything else becomes a little bit of predictions and guesswork, and that's where it gets a little bit out of control. I think it's more of a focused view on your daily thoughts, your behavior, your observation, your being present, your forgiveness of others, and especially of yourself, mm-hmm. And cultivating that spirit of calm and gentle growth.
Right. So you just bring it down to the most personal level, which is your relationship with yourself, your body, your thoughts, your mind, and then just start there. You don't need to be solving all the problems of the world. Start with yourself.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. Just take it baby steps, baby steps, and be kind and be loving towards just one person. It's so easy to do. That's you. Mm-hmm. Just cultivate that sense of caring and loving for the person you're carrying around, mm-hmm. and is carrying you around.
Yeah,
and that will, without you having to do anything with other people. Just because you are doing that, it will show up mm-hmm. in your behavior, and it will actually influence others mm-hmm. without you having to say much.
Yep. Yeah, amazing.
That's the and that's a nice journey to carry with you, especially if it is also accompanied by this compassion. So that as you're doing that, is that if you are to decide that is your mission, And the next thing you know, you're behaving less than that. And to just say, to laugh at that, to see how much of
treat even that with compassion.
Yes, exactly. That. Yeah. Okay, so this is where I am on this journey. Very interesting. This is my lofty idea of where I would like to be, and this is how small I thought just then. And okay, that's a check on your journey, and then get up and keep on going.
I like to use that example of my journey is flying around the world, and then I wound up back where I started. And you talked about when you're very young, this sense of feeling that you feel disconnected with the world or with everything, really.
Yes.
And then this realization that the connection starts within. So it starts with the relationship with yourself.
Yes. So absolutely.
I don't know, was your personal exploration, a lot of people talk about seeking or being on a spiritual path.
Yes.
And I feel like, at least for me, that spiritual path was looking everywhere other than in myself, going to gurus, I'm trying to learn trying to learn that. I spent years studying philosophy, so many different things, looking everywhere other than, until I finally gave up. And I was like, okay, I just need a break after years of searching and seeking.
Yeah.
And then I suddenly realized the answer was...
It's so close. It's right there.
So close.
Yeah. It's in the back pocket. Just interesting. I grew up as a Muslim. I fasted. Prayed. When I was in high school, one summer I worked on a construction site, and it was near Salt Lake. And Ramadan, the fasting month, it changes because lunar year calendar. And that year, it was in the middle of the summer. So you can imagine the heat and the salty air, and you couldn't even drink. And then right before I left Tunisia to go to Europe to study, I stumbled into a movie, Jesus of Nazareth. And that's the first time that I actually learned what Christianity is about. And that's when I saw the whole movie. And towards the end, Jesus, on the cross, and the Roman soldier spears him, and he says, "Forgive them, for they do not know what they do." And I was absolutely shocked that this human being, the most wonderful, the most wise, the most compassionate, and all the talks and all the lectures he gave, if we call them lectures, and at the end, he gets punished in the most horrific way. And yet he turns around and he says, "Forgive them." And it was just an amazing experience. Fast forward to 4 years later, I'm at Catholic University studying architecture, and I converted to Christianity. And I was going to church every Sunday, and Catholic, and, doing the whole thing, kneeling down and standing up and eating my biscuit and all of that stuff. And I grew out of that. And then someone gave me Awakening the Buddha Within, which is a great book. And I considered myself a Buddhist for a while. And then Ken Wilber came along, and it's just more of a scientific, pragmatic, mechanical way of figuring out the pieces of the world without, to make sure that I don't misquote what Ken Wilber is about, but bringing the spirit of the mechanical world, I call it, and the spiritual world in one. They're all one. And that was a new transformation. And then you introduced us to Eckhart Tolle. And so that's an interesting a journey also of constantly being curious and looking around, and there must be a solution somewhere else, and, turning every rock and looking for a solution. And now I really don't need to read anything anymore. I just, I know what I need to do, which is just be patient with myself and others, be compassionate with myself, then with others, and be quiet. Try to lessen the noise a little bit. Yeah.
And then that's what, now when I'm teaching in my classes, people, you get that, a lot of seekers, and even I wound up teaching a lot of yoga teachers or meditation teachers, and surprisingly, when I first got into that realm of yoga and meditation, I assumed that everyone who was a teacher already had the answers. and then you find these people that are, and it's just, it's their own personal, process of figuring this stuff out. And then people want answers. They want knowledge. They want, where should I look? Where should I look? And it's always, can you recommend books? Can you, is there this person or that person, or what can you look at? And then I'm always just, okay, forget all that stuff and just look at yourself.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. I think it's an older tradition to look within.
Yeah.
Also, there is a way of looking within. Mm-hmm. There is a technique. There is a knowledge base to how to look within. Mm-hmm. And so that could be part of the teaching process, is how when we say to look within with compassion. To some people, really, that doesn't mean anything. They don't understand. They don't understand what compassion means. They have a general idea. So the teaching could be on how to look within, what to look for within. How do you observe and be the watcher, being the watcher of your thoughts and of your actions and of your feelings. Emotional intelligence is a psychological, basically, treatise on how emotions work within you and outside.
The way I describe it, and maybe there's a better way to describe this journey and to just make it more clear, more practical, more just because I feel like it is super practical and it's super important, I think, for people both on a personal level and for society as a whole. So the way I describe it is I'll say, imagine somebody that you really care about, you really love, and they're going through a hard time. How would you treat them? Right? You would maybe give them a hug. You would treat them, with care and with compassion and try to understand what they're going through. And take that feeling and then turn that in on yourself, and that's how you want to approach this relationship.
That's beautiful.
With yourself.
That is really nice. It's very, very interesting point you make. I think the idea of what you project to the outside, which I think you and I share, that most people really have more of a loving attitude towards the outside world than not, and to turn that on inward. And for some reason, we sometimes equate that with selfishness, you love to yourself too much. And we cultivate also a little bit of a culture where we look at ourselves, but we're looking at ourselves and how do we then look to others? Not we look at ourselves to how we look to ourselves, on the inside. So we end up looking in the mirror to trim our beard or, put some lotion or put makeup on or do the right hair.
And then on top of that, we have a culture that's trying to use that insecurity to sell us stuff.
Exactly.
These companies are constantly trying to tweak the ego and to get under your skin, so to speak, and make you feel like you're not enough. And if you buy our product, then everything will be all right. Yeah.
One exercise, and this is part of the teaching of how to turn on yourself and how to look within. A very simple exercise is to stand in front of the mirror and look at yourself. This is more of on a surface level of looking in. You're not looking really deep within. And look at your face and spend 5 minutes. Imagine. That would be very, very rare, in my opinion, that anyone will do that exercise. But if that's a simple exercise to do 5 minutes of simply staring, you're going to laugh, you're going to think it's stupid, you're going to want to stop, you're going to notice, flaws. But that's an opening, sort of a portal to start and looking at yourself. But you're going to have some interesting insight. The other one is...
I actually haven't... I'll have to try that after this. I haven't tried that one. I've done staring at a wall for 5 minutes. Actually, one of the first real... I think looking back, I had done a lot of types of meditation without even realizing it was meditation. But one of the first times that I did meditation where I really understood it as meditation was just took a day off from work and then, I'm not going to put any distractions, no radio, no TV, no reading book. And then I had one wall without any pictures hanging on it or anything. And I'm just going to stare at that wall and I'm going to see how long I can go. And that was definitely a pretty interesting experience.
Yeah, I understand.
But I like this one of trying to see yourself, because the staring at the wall was still, there was all kinds of thoughts going on. And I think I wasn't at that point where I really even understood this concept of looking within. So I didn't really know, specifically where I was trying to get, but this is looking in the mirror as a way to really see yourself. That's pretty. Yeah, it's a good one.
Well, the next step from that would be to look at others, and if you have your most significant other, to start doing the exercise where you're looking at each other, and then you can add to that. The simple look of exercise is the compassion and love and seeing yourself in the other person. Then the next step would be to start being in a community where that is a regular practice of making eye contact. And then you can take it on to the street where when you're walking down the street and people walking by you, you are present to them, and everyone you're interacting with, you're completely present to them. And when they are talking to you, you are so present that as if it's you who is talking. That's the level of presence you can then start cultivating in them.
And it's such a beautiful way to interact with the world and to be really present and to feel connected. And I can remember my old self, it's almost hard to imagine that I was this way, I grew up, I think my parents said, don't talk to strangers. And I took that very literally. And also I was a shy and an introvert. And that kind of built upon itself to the point where I would interact with people. I would go to the supermarket and I'm checking out. I wouldn't make eye contact with the person. I wouldn't say anything to them. It's almost like they didn't exist. It was or there was such a degree of separation and a sense of loneliness that came from that. And I would be afraid to, I remember when I first decided, okay, I'm going to try to interact with strangers. This person across from me at the supermarket, they're probably not a danger to me. But that was the sense. I was living in a place of fear of anyone that I didn't know, that I was like protecting myself and surviving in the world. Yes. And then just such a disconnect. And then to actually make that, I can remember being so scared to actually, okay, I'm going to look somebody in the eye, and before they say hello to me, I'm going to say hello to them. And it's just such a forgive me for I didn't know. And so such a sense of isolation and the quiet struggle and the living the life of quiet desperation. And my friends thought everything is fine, but then when I'm interacting with people that I didn't know, it was just my life was so small and so isolated.
Yeah, you can multiply that by millions and millions and maybe billions of interaction on the global scale of humans interacting one-on-one or in groups, where that is the sense between them, between everyone, and the potential of this complete presence to the other extreme, the other end of the spectrum of complete detachment from in any connection with the other human beings. And you can see the difference between the energy that we would create between us if we are totally present to each other versus this idea of everyone is having a wall around them, a firewall that this is mine and that's yours. And imagine, for instance, in your case, you walk to the cash register, you put in your merchandise, what you bought, your grocery, and you have your wall, and the cashier, she may be really in need of a smile that day, of someone saying, you count, you're important, you're serving me, and I appreciate this. It's not because you're being paid or that's your job, but you are important to me. And she gets from you not even eye contact. You push the money, you grab your bag, and you walk. The difference between the potential versus what we've done. And that's the case. That's the way it is. And so just remember not to do that, not to do that to ourselves, and not to do that to others. And it doesn't take much. It's really, it's free to do that.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what you're doing now. I mean, we met as architects, which is kind of I think an interesting way to meet two people that are on a spiritual path of spiritual awakening, and then we find ourselves in a business, a business that's centered around creativity. But now you're working for the Navy, and I would tend to think of somebody like you as a guru out there, teaching, inspiring people, spreading the word about this awakening that you've had and the experience, and sharing with others. But you're doing it in a way that's more subtle and quiet and average, I guess I want to say. That you're not, I don't think that you feel that you're called to be a big, well-known guru. And not everyone who has this flowering or this experience is going to be called to do that. So I think it's interesting that we hear a lot from these people, the people that are well-known in this field, and they're people that feel as though they're called to get out there and to share and to spread the message. But I at the same time, so you're doing this work that is important, and you feel it's important, and you're making, I think, an amazing contribution. But it's in a way that is in alignment with the things that you've been interested in your entire life. So yeah. I find that really interesting. But this idea of working, we're talking about developing, cultivating peace and awareness, and you're working for the military.
Yeah, it's very interesting. This is part of an interesting journey, right? That who would have thought that's what I would be doing, right? And
a Tunisian former Muslim working for the U.S. military.
Yeah, an Arab,
Arab,
an Arab guy, with a name like Ab Labidi. Yeah. Many times in formal meetings, people go around a conference room introducing themselves, and I've introduced my full name, which is Abdul Qadir bin Hamadi bin Sadiq bin Hamadi Labidi, and bin. And then all they could think of is, I'm sure, is like, oh, Bin Laden. Is there a Bin Laden in there? Did we hear something? But that's part of I guess the calling is to be there and say, here's an Arab guy working for the Navy, and look at that. He's really not that bad. I happen to have full security now. I have projects that are fairly special projects. I'll leave it at that. But I'll give you an idea, or just a short background on my job interview. I interviewed with the Navy as a project manager. And project managers basically have 3 basic deliverables that they have to do on each project. Deliver the scope, deliver it on time, and deliver it within budget. That's it. In my job interview, I added the 4th one, and I lived by. And that is how you get this job done. And the how is, how do you treat people? What kind of culture you cultivate among all the people that are doing this project? What do we think when the project is done? Because a typical project will involve hundreds of people really. How your behavior and what the culture you instill from the beginning, how do you mentor? How do you talk about risk assessment at the beginning of the project? You can add to that the risk of offending people and the risk of not sharing with people information. This is only internal now, this line of thinking, internal to the people that are involved in the project directly or indirectly. Then you can extend it to the user. Who are we doing this for? In my case, we're doing it for Marines, and specifically the Marine Corps Special Operation Command. These are the guys, the SEALs of the SEALs, basically, for the Marine Corps. These are warriors of the first class. They are the toughest, smartest people in the world in their field. And now you're doing a gymnasium for them, or dormitories for them, or a small clinic for them. And the way you think about them, the way you prepare the space for them, the way you listen to their concerns and their needs, it's all part of how aware you are of that, the big picture for them, and the love and compassion you extend to them. You don't look at them as warriors. You look, first of all, at them as your fellow human beings. Their calling is what they are doing, what they're being subjected to, how they're being trained, what they're being exposed to, especially coming back from wars. And now you are managing a project that's going to house them. This is where they're going to sleep. This is where they're going to interact with their fellow Marines. They're away from families. So you can bring this level of consciousness, this level of compassion and love into this place. That is very much needed. And so, yes, the Navy's there. They serve a good purpose. Sometimes they're used well, and sometimes they're not. But you focus on the individual, that one person, that one Marine, a 19-year-old who went and served the country, put his life in danger, and he's coming back and he's going to sleep in the room that you designed. You owe them that much more attention and that much more of your talent. And so that's where I am now.
And so now you can see that applied to any field, really.
Absolutely.
Anything that if somebody's a waitress or a waiter or a physician or anything.
Absolutely.
And you can bring this level of consciousness that starts with yourself.
Absolutely.
Into what you're doing.
Yep. You know, you're designing a dining hall or little break room for the bus drivers of a school. It's you can say for an architect that's not a dream job, right? It's just a 400 square feet room, bunch of chairs and a kitchen counter and a bathroom on the side. You're done. But you can say the bus driver got up at 5, went around collecting kids, rowdy, yellow, wild little kids, nervous about getting them safe to the school, drop them off, comes back, and they have maybe an hour and a half of a break, and then they're going to go back and pick them up and take them across town to some event, a gym event or a competition event. That space where they're spending that 1 hour and a half, it's so important for them to recover, to rejuvenate, and all of a sudden you're thinking about what you do in that space has an effect on that person and on the kids. There is always a connection, you know, in no matter what space you're designing or you're building. But you relate to this since you're still practicing architecture.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I just want to, we're running a little short on time now. I wanted to touch on, you're living this life of your calling, and yet you also do have a bit of, you've dabbled in contributing towards the move towards world peace.
Correct.
So I just wanted to touch on that, things that you've done, any challenges that you found, you know, how you are spreading. And I feel that this is part of spreading this message on a bigger level.
Yes, I think I've contributed to Habitat for Humanity, and the latest one is the International Day of Peace. United Nations International Day of Peace is September 21st, and it's gaining momentum now around the world. And I urge people, listeners, to check it out. The idea of giving of your time to the outside world in some way. I tend to believe that peace on earth is inevitable. It is coming. I believe that it is in our nature as human beings to be at peace, to be in a state of tranquility, of content in the best possible way. And what I've done through the International Day of Peace is focus on making this message as clear as possible. So last year, I organized an art exhibit by children from the schools in the Norfolk area, in Norfolk and Virginia Beach. And the only idea we gave to the schools is peace is inevitable. I want the kids to do artwork that reflects this idea. So as you can imagine, most people would say that is a naive thing, that peace is inevitable. And we had a beautiful exhibit. We had all these pieces of art. We actually bought the canvas for them, myself and Angelo Missisco, the great artist. And we met with the art directors of each of the schools, and then we let them go. And then we got the pieces that were all 4 feet by 4 feet pieces. Amazing artwork that we received back, and we exhibited, during the event. And when the children and their teachers and parents came to the event, and the talk I gave was about this idea, that peace is our nature. It is a very unfortunate misjustice that we do to ourselves and to children to say there will always be war. War is our nature. It is very unjust. It's a horrible thing to do to kids, to look at a child and think, without even telling them, that war is part of their nature.
Right.
So that is what I try to do with that event, is really cultivate this idea that peace is our nature. That's what we are meant to experience and live.
Yeah, and I think that is a wonderful service that you're doing, even if you only affect, one child. It's definitely worthwhile, and I know that you're doing much more than that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. It's been I really admire the effort that you're putting in there, and the great work that you're doing in everything that you touch. So.
Very good.
We'll have to wrap things up now. If people do want to reach you or see what you're doing, where can they find you?
Just Facebook, Abdul Labidi, Facebook. There's only one.
All right. And if people have trouble with the spelling, I'll put it in the show notes so that they'll be able to find you.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you for the time, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Very good. Yeah, take care.
That was a good one. There was a lot to take in there. But one of the things that really stuck with me was that quote when Ab said, "I know what I need to do. Be patient with myself and others. Be compassionate with myself and others. And be quiet. Try to lessen the noise." And if there's one thing that you can take away from this and give a try to help you move towards that direction of consciousness, I think it would be that. So, the show notes will be, you can find them at chrisbrownstudios.com in the podcast section, or you can also go to practicallyconscious.com, and that'll take you right to the list of shows. In the show notes, we'll have links to people and things mentioned in the show, including the United Nations, Angelo Missisco, Eckhart Tolle, Ken Wilber, and Adyashanti, as well as I'll spell Ab's name there so that you can find him on Facebook and make a new friend. Until next time, it was a great pleasure for me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And namaste, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Practically Conscious. You can find more at chrisbrownstudios.com and on Facebook at Chris Brown Studios. Make consciousness mainstream by starting with yourself. Have a wonderful day.